really scared about climate change. I think it is really affecting our everyday lives, and it has been for a while. I think it's become really obvious to most people that something is changing in the environment significantly.
The way I feel about climate change, I'm like really frightened about it and pissed off that we're taking so long to get our act together.
I think it's a tremendous problem that we have to face in the next coming decades, and if we fail to do so, it will result in catastrophes in all areas of life.
It's an issue that really terrifies me because I know what a huge impact it already has had and will have on daily life, and not just for us but for generations after us.
I'm pretty terrified of climate change. It keeps me up some nights.
I don't really have strong positive or negative opinion about it. For me, it's just one of these natural occurrences that happens, and I can't judge if it's a bad or a good thing.
I obviously think it's bad. I think it's stupid that we're still debating whether or not it exists instead of discussing how to fix it. I think it's really just a frustrating issue in general.
I'm not very optimistic. Feel kind of helpless. Sort of like it's already happened. Like I missed the boat, kinda.
Policymakers don't even need to rely on science at this point. To know, they need to look out their windows to recognize that something's wrong.
I think climate change is a very serious issue, and probably what makes it more serious an issue than seemingly more existential threats in terms of politics or world events is that it seems to be very much an impersonal danger to our community, in that it's very easy to ignore.
I think it's going to be a hard thing to change because so many people don't actually get to see evidence of global warming. It's more of a statistic, and if people can't see it on a day-to-day basis, they're not going to really try and do anything to change what's going on.
Well, personally, I'm not very affected just because I come from a very mild climate in the northeastern United States. If anything, it's slightly warmer in the summers, and I don't get as much snow in the winters.
They've had torrential downpour just near our home institution in New York, Sarah Lawrence College, that did horrendous damage to towns and flooded people's houses and apartments that are personal friends of mine.
The lake at my house used to always freeze every winter, but it hasn't frozen in like 6 years.
Wow.
And the same thing's happening all over the U.S., but also total reverse in climate patterns where there's extreme flooding, like extreme patterns, and so there's so many people who are affected much more strongly than I am.
I can see that in places such as, like, say, Bangladesh, where the water level is rising and pushing people out of their homes, or that the islands in the South Pacific, such as Tuvalu and the Federated States of Micronesia, will cease to exist as countries. I find that to be a huge problem.
I think there's going to be a lot of profound impacts, and I think these are already being felt by communities worldwide. Flooding, greater occurrence of natural disasters, temperature rise, species extinction, and future threats to the world's food supply, disease outbreaks, really all sorts of things, just the complete dismantling of our planet's regulatory systems.
Well, you know, if the temperature is increasing, that's sort of wonderful because I'll be warmer.
I don't know. I think we're all going to die.
And I understand intellectually that that's not actually how it works. Climate change can result in the temperature becoming frigid and dreary and such.
Well, I mean, I don't know that much about it. I guess it depends on the course that it takes. I mean, because some people say it's gonna, increase the temperature, some say it's gonna cause like a global ice age, flooding. It seems like we don't really know what exactly the outcome is going to be, other than I feel like it could affect me in a million different ways, probably all of which would be bad.
Well, I was told that we won't be able to fly airplanes as regularly as we do now.
So there'll be less travel.
Again, that's, I mean, a plane burns a lot of fuel. I don't really like planes, so if you want to get rid of them, that's cool.
To be honest, I don't really know how flying per se affects climate change, except for the part that, for flights we use gasoline.
But again, you can notice how many people are here in this airport, and a lot of money goes towards people flying. And mostly because they need to buy the fuel that helps the airplanes get into the air. So again, it's just mostly travel. Travel is one of the big problems.
There's kind of a lack of political will that people would rather maintain comforts than do something to respond to this enormous threat to our planet.
And again, people are not going to give it up so easily because it's convenient for them to drive a car rather than to ride a bike, or to take a plane than to take a boat.
Worst case scenario would be like we're not going to be able to eat anymore, we're not going to have any water, we're not going to be able to live our lives the way that we expect ourselves to be able to live it, the way that we imagine. And I think that like threat in itself is sort of what makes people think that it's not real, or makes people really want to deny it very vehemently, because it's crazy to think that the way you live isn't going to be an option anymore.
Well, everybody's responsible, but I don't think people will voluntarily adopt environmentally friendly practices.
If we could persuade the government to actually involve the environment in its sort of agendas of things to address, that would be ideal.
I mean, really the only way that things are going to change is if the government gets involved.
The government has a responsibility.
Governments.
Government. Strong government.
So I think government really should get involved in certain areas, and one of the most prominent, I think, would be for the government to impose higher emission standards.
I know my carbon emissions rate is incredibly high, and so working to lower that.
We have collective responsibility in the issues. We all have used gasoline and oil products without thinking about it for over 100 years now.
Well, in terms of remedying the problem, I think that it is solving the problems which arise from climate change would be better approached from an international multilateral level.
It needs to be a global kind of, I mean, every country has to work together, of course, but I think that because countries like America, like Great Britain, are in positions of power, I think that it would help if they took a stronger stance.
We have an international arena which has established certain norms based on certain consensual agreements for pollution or conservational goals. For example, the G8 summit goals or the New Millennium Goals in the UN.
I mean, each country's going to have to do individual actions though, and there's plenty that we could do now, which we just choose not to.
What I think needs to be done is, I think there needs to be a really concerted international effort to reduce carbon emissions and to mitigate the problem and to also adapt to climate change. I think this needs to happen on all levels, from the community level to national levels, international.
If a Western power like the United States or the United Kingdom doesn't properly invest itself or honor its commitment to global ecological health, then it hurts the norms which hold us together, not just the ones which we care about, but the ones all around us.
George Monbiot made a good point, I thought. He said that it's pretty exciting that we're the only people who can do this, who can fix it, because it'll be too late in 10 years to do something now.
But I think it's time for all of us to take collective responsibility in making change and trying to fix the situation before it becomes too critical.